Recently, I was invited to join Yegi Saryan, a very determined first gen successful business owner. Yegi actually is the owner of Yegi Beauty, a successful lash company. And she trains and also has her products that she sells. And she invited me on the podcast with her on her podcast. And I wanted to share a snippet of that conversation between us and navigating both being a successful entrepreneur and also being a mother and how to balance that without feeling guilty or without having to sacrifice either our family or our businesses. So I wanted to share with you this snippet. I hope you enjoy this moment of conversation with Yegi.
I'm going to ask you a real question from an entrepreneur mom myself, and I know a lot of our listeners can relate. So this may be a therapy question, I'm sure it has a lot of background of how we were raised, but also our human nature. But I just want your thoughts. I don't think there is one way of thinking about this, but I found it very difficult. So I am very much like you. I think nothing can stop me. I can do anything I put my mind to. I had to work really hard to break through from my first generation. I was actually not born here. I was illegal for a while. Yeah, I could just we'll leave it at that. So I went through a lot of troubles to build who I am, to be where I am today. So I was very determined to be successful in my business, in the workforce, and all of that. But when I started having kids, naturally my energy changed. When you're an overachiever and you want the best, you want to also be the best mom, right? You want to do everything as good as you can. Like you said, help them learn about the that gender roles don't exist, that you could do anything. You want to empower your girls. So I started shifting my focus on learning a lot more how to be like a good parent, right? Or like an ideal parent to raise my kids. And I saw my business kind of taking the back seat. And we always talk about having both, but I think I want to have this realistic conversation with you and see what you think is, yes, we can have both. I feel like I do have both, but I still struggle. It's like, okay, that balance, whatever you put your energy in, of course, that's what grows. But now I'm tempted to put so much of my time and energy with my kids because they're my kids. I love them. And is that my mother in me? I was curious, how is that balance for you? And have you seen like your business kind of taking a backseat when you became a mother?
So I always wanted to be a mom. In fact, our kids, we share with them often that we went through a lot to have them. Like science was involved, doctors were involved. So I really wanted that. And I also couldn't separate my need for everything you mentioned, being an overachiever, wanting my own business. It was really hard. Yegi, I'm not going to lie. It was really hard. And there are moments where it's really hard. And then I remember there's so many layers to this. Like everything has so many layers. So the first thing I always remember when I was building my business is if you treat your business like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby.
I see.
And before we have our kids, our business are our babies.
Yeah.
So do you have one or two?
3.
Oh, you beat me. God bless you. I was like, this is good. Okay. So here's the thing. And this is going to correlate, right? I was so in love. My daughter's the oldest. I was so in love with her. And like I said, my son is through IVF. So like we really wanted him, right? We wanted both of them. And when I was pregnant with him, we were super happy. And at one point when it was close to like giving birth, I said, oh my God, like I had this like feeling. And I told my husband, this is going to sound horrible, but how am I supposed to love someone else? Like I love her so much. I like breathe her in. There's no room in my heart for somebody else. And he told me something and he didn't miss a beat. And he said, you'll find that your heart will find the space for him. And let me tell you,
that's going to make me emotional.
my son, my daughter's amazing. She's brilliant. She's strong. She's like me. He is the sweetest, most gentle, cuddliest. And I tell him every day, I never imagined loving a little boy as much as I love you. My heart found the space. And what I'm saying here is there's a parallel. I don't think we have to love one child less to love the other more.
And our business is the other child.
It's another child. It's not a stepchild. It's a child. And I think it's the same way I had to learn how to go from 1 to 2, and you learn from 1 to 2 to 3. Do you love any, and I know your answer, do you love any of your kids less than the other?
Absolutely not.
It's not even a thought, right? And it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't transition until I became a mom. And I'm glad you asked this question, because it's not always easy. The same way, like, it's not always easy to be a mom. But there's more for me than that. My business isn't just for me.
It's a bigger purpose.
It's not even that. It's Yegi, it's for my kids. I want them to know. So one of my favorite moments with my kids was my mom's been working for the same wonderful man for, oh my God, 40 years, almost as long as I've been born. And one day he invited us to go on a cruise, and my kids went, and I'm telling them, oh, grandma's boss invited us. And my son goes to me, who's your boss? Oh, Yegi. I don't have a boss. What do you mean you don't have a boss? I don't have a boss. And you know what he told me? I don't want to have a boss either.
Wow. Yeah, so they learn.
They learn. So my business is for my kids. It gives me the freedom to set my schedule. I don't miss anything. I go to field trips. I hide Easter eggs. I go to book fairs. I miss nothing.
I love that so much. And I love that we're talking about it, because I think that's such a common misconception that if you're an entrepreneur and you're really like set your mind to achieving so much, you ignore your family. I think a lot of people don't think it's possible. But yes, I do have to agree with you on that. I am a very, very present mom. I'm still finding a way to like not be so obsessed with being so present with my kids and give my business a little bit more of my energy again. But it is very possible to do both. It is challenging, like we said, but I love what you had to say about it being as your other child. And that's kind of helping me now. I'm like, I didn't think about that, because we also get the mom guilt. A lot of people ask me about the mom guilt. They say, like when you're spending so much time at work, how do you not get the mom guilt? And I love what you said is your work is for your kids, not only financially to provide for them, but to lead with example, show them what it takes to be an entrepreneur, of breaking through barriers, right? And to also, like you said, have more time and freedom in order to spend with them. Now, being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean being a workaholic. I think that's another conversation we need to have.
No. Well, can I pause you? Sorry. I want to add to what you're saying. So yes, write that down and we'll get back to it right away. To give you a further example of the modeling for the kids, right? My kids are my employees. They're on my payroll.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Okay, well, that conversation's for, I believe you've already met and interviewed her. Gabby Rincon is my financial strategist.
Oh,
She's
nice.
phenomenal. Yes, you did. I've been checking everything out. Both of my children are my payroll. So they earn their money. They're learning how to save their money, and my business pays them. So when I started my YouTube channel, they knew more than I did. Oh, mom, that's too short. Oh, mom, that's too long. Oh, mom, you need this. Oh, you have another subscriber. They're my biggest cheerleaders. I've spoken in Orlando last year and this year. Last year, I went to California to speak October, around this time. Next month, I'll be in Texas speaking. And I was just invited to go speak at UC Berkeley in April of next year. They come with me.
Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
But that's what I'm saying. I bring them for the journey. So I don't just work and close the door and not pay attention. They are part of the journey, because I want them to do whatever they want. And I want them to know that the sky, there's no limit. The limit is the limit you set for yourself.
That's so inspiring.
There's always time for what's most important. It's priorities. So if we can shift and find a way to make the time that we need to get things done, we don't forget to feed our kids, right? That's not an option, right? People forget to eat sometimes, but eventually you need to eat and you need to drink water. You need to go to the bathroom. Like, we don't not have time for that. You can't not gas up your car. If not, you won't go anywhere. So if you think about it, everything that needs to get done gets done. Everything else is just
kind of a universal law.
Yeah, but everything else is just us trying to figure out how to get it done. So I'm a huge fan of time blocking. So reprioritizing, looking at where you're spending your time, turning off alerts and time blocking. You talked about how you're trying to kind of get back into your business and still be like this awesome mom. Well, just like when we have a newborn, right? Sometimes our babies need a little more from us than others, right?
Yeah.
The newborn needs a little more, or maybe there's a different stage or regression and they're sleeping less, or they're sick and they need something. So it's about balance, right? But there's no solution. It's throughout different chapters of my business and my life, I've adjusted. I've had longer days, less days. I've had shorter days, more days. It's whatever works for you in that chapter of your life. And nobody should ever answer that for you. You can look for suggestions, try, and here's the beauty of being your own boss. You can change it. You don't have to explain to anybody why.
It's so simple.
Yeah, you just change it.
Awesome. Now, talking about changing it, and it sounds like you're really big on kind of checking in with yourself, see what's working, what's not, and making a change. Don't sit down and cry about it. Do something about it. Do you have any?
Yegi, you can still cry. Just
Okay.
You can cry. You can let it out. You need to let it out, but we're not going to marinate in the moping. We're going to change it.
All right, just take your moments, do your thing, cry, vent, yell, but then do something about it.
Yes. Eat your ice cream, binge your Netflix, and then get to work.
Awesome. Now, do you have a system or kind of like a step-by-step guide of how you check in with yourself, or how you tell your clients to check in with themselves to see what's working, what's not working, and what can our audience take away from that practice?
I think a lot of times, again, depending on culture, what we're used to, expectations, family, our body and our mind and our heart intuitively know what we need. It's when we start feeling sick, or we got a headache, or we don't feel well, or we physically get sick, that we do something about it. So all the pieces of us work together to let us know when we need something. What we are wired to do, unfortunately, after birth, is we're wired to ignore what we need to people please.
And that's what we're conditioned to do from a very young age.
So the first thing is to realize how you've been conditioned, what's not serving you, and to rewrite the script. So our brain is actually, there's something called neuroplasticity that, I'm not a scientist, this is not my specialty, but we can literally retrain and reshape our brain by new habits, by new thought process. So if something is not serving you, if you're not sleeping well, if you're stressed, if you're getting migraines every day, if your color is off, if you're not enjoying time anymore, those are signs. Those are signs from your body, from your mind, from your heart. If you don't feel fulfilled, if you don't feel motivated, if you wanted your kids and suddenly you're not feeling the same thing, you're not feeling as enamored with your business, you need to look at that and reassess, reprioritize, tweak. And if you don't, one of my favorite things is when you fly, they always say, if there's an emergency, put your mask on first. And everybody's like, why? My kids? Well, because if you pass out, you can't help your kids. And it's the same thing in everything. You have to take care of yourself to show up as a better boss, as a better owner, as a better creative, as a better parent, as a better spouse. If I'm not feeling good, especially with the work that I do, I have nothing left. You don't want to talk to me when I'm not good. I have nothing left. Right? You're getting scrapped.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So that's why it's so important.
And it's realizing when that's not so much like we're not worth it to anybody. I usually use that to shift, especially for moms. But if you're not feeling good, how good are you showing up? If you want to be a good mom and you're not taking care of yourself, what are you showing by example? And what quality of mom are you showing? You're there, but are you present? You're there, but are you loving? You're there, but how is your interaction? So in order to sustain the life that you want to, and we're talking to overachievers, right? We're talking about people that are trying to do things differently. You need to give yourself grace, see what's happening, take time for yourself. Don't come up with excuses. Like really look at things. And we change. Sometimes maybe your business doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe the style of business doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe you need to tweak your business or find another business that allows you the balance that you need so you can be a parent. It's different for everybody, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to take inventory.
Now, a lot of people, or lately, a good practice is to sit down and journal to kind of get it all out there and see what's really going on inside. Is that something you recommend? Or if, let's say, my body's telling me something's off, I'm getting sick all the time, or I'm losing sleep, or I'm just not feeling like excited about my business anymore. If I'm getting any sign from my body, what's the first step I can take to kind of like start figuring out what's really going on inside?
The first thing is not to ignore it, right? Because we're used to, again, like shoving that down. I love journaling. A lot of my clients hate journaling. They roll their eyes. So if you don't like to journal, what you could do is you can take your phone, right? We're always typing, open up your notes and just write words. Tired, headache, no water, miserable. You don't have to write a book, and put a date or make a new note on a different date so it's saved. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. But I think what happens is when we're not paying attention, kind of like when we, child therapy is very similar. I tell people, like, when you're drinking, you're hanging out, you kind of lose your full focus of filter. When you can free write, like, I don't even like to tell my patients what to write about. I keep it super gentle. And they're like, tell me more. I'm like, no, just do this. I give them one line and see what comes up for you. I don't want to tell you what's going to come up for you. You tell me. And then in there is your truth. And if you do it often enough, you'll see a pattern, and you'd be amazed. There's nothing cooler than setting your goals and then looking back a year later and saying, oh my God, I did that. Or, oh my God, I didn't.
That is very satisfying.
Yes. Or, oh my God, I didn't. But you know what? I had my baby. Or I didn't get to write my book, but I spoke 6 times in 6 different states.
That's wonderful.
Grace, reflection, and always you have to be anchored with your purpose and what's important to you. And don't allow yourself, I know this is really hard and it's easier to say than to do, but don't allow others to dictate what your life should look like or what it should sound like.
Oof, that is a very, very good point. I struggle with that a lot, seeing it on a lot of people, because we are sold, literally, we are sold that this is the life that we should want. We should have luxurious thing. Our goal should be to have a lot of material things. That's what success looks like. Look at the celebrities, you see all this, and I hate that so much that is what's sold to us. But at the end of the day, these businesses of luxury goods are literally trying to sell their product. So I think it's important to talk about that. Yeah, it's marketing.
It's marketing.
It's important to talk about that, because that may not be what you want. You're just kind of conditioned to want that. And you need to really sit down and think about that, right? It's, what do you really want?
So Yegi, if I asked you that, what do you really want? What would your answer be?
I've thought about this for a long time, but I mean, in what area? Just in my life?
In life and business?
Well, currently my goal with my life is to get my business back to where it used to be, to a place where I could step away fully and I can go travel the world with my kids, doing almost like homeschooling in every different country to learn culture. It's something I've always wanted to do just for fun, but that's my big goal right now that meshes personal and business. But of course, I would need to break that down to many little goals to raise my sales to a place, to hire a certain amount of employees in certain areas in order to be able to fully step away. I've stepped away in the past, so I know it's possible and I've done it. It's been amazing, but maybe I stepped away for a little too long.
But that's that balance piece, right? How to have that built-in breath room and live life and still not abandon the business baby.
Exactly. So I did have all my kids really back to back. So it's a good excuse to kind of abandon my firstborn that has been very, it's old enough it could stand on its own, but now it needs a little more guidance. So
hypothetically, right? So I'm going to this is what I do in sessions.
Yeah, let's
I'm going to challenge you, right? So this is not judgment at all. This is like if we had little people around us that are not nice saying us things, right? What if somebody said, you're not educated enough to teach your kids? How are you going to protect them? What about the medical system? How are you going to have insurance? How do you keep them safe? How about you can get mugged? What if you get murdered? If somebody starts planting seeds of doubt with you, How do you counter that? Or do you doubt yourself?
For me personally, I don't doubt myself. I've worked on myself enough where I'm confident that I could literally do anything I put my mind to. I've gone through enough trouble, enough struggle, enough life tests in order to know that no matter what's in front of me, I can overcome it. So that took a lot of time, a lot of problem solving, a lot of putting myself outside of my comfort zone in order to get there. But if you were to ask me 10 years ago, I would say, oh my God, yes, I would start doubting myself because I'm not confident enough. This confidence had to be built. That's my answer.
Yes. So you're right. So both versions of you, right? The one that had confidence and the one that is fully anchored is my word, confident. There's no doubt. So that's like if somebody says, murder somebody, you're like, I'm not going to murder somebody, right? Like there's some things in life that we just automatically say like, no, you're crazy. But there's so many other things that we allow people or society or industry to affect. So when you have that confidence, when you build that confidence, when you are sitting in that room with that journal by yourself, allowing yourself to know what you want and what you value, you're building your anchor. And once you have that anchor, that's the answer, Yegi. The answer to your original question.
I love that. Thank you for doing that with me because look, now that I've said that, I do want to be very clear. There has been moments where I'm doubting myself. And at that moment, if I'm in a doubty mood and you asked me the same question, I would have probably said, oh, I don't know. I might think, am I going to run out of money? Like, are people going to not do as great of a job in their positions if I'm not managing them, you know? So I think it has a lot to do with continuous work because I do want to be real. It's not like, okay, I've come to this confident person and nothing can bring me down now. No, still life brings me down at certain points, but I do get up much quicker because I've worked on myself. And there's different things, right? And I loved what you said about sitting and thinking about it. And you know what else comes up to mind? And I want to know what you think. Lately, a little bit of a struggle I've been having is like, okay, what do I really want? Because my vision and my goal has been so clear for so many years. And it was mainly just my first baby, which was the business. But along having kids back to back, I really enjoy doing life with them, right? So now it's like, what do I really want? Do I want to give up some of the luxury for the time with the kids? Do I have to give up some of the luxury? Can I have it all, you know? So then it comes to a point where, like you said, we really need to sit down and regroup and be like, okay, this is what I wanted, but something's telling me something's off. Let me sit down and figure out what is it, you know, what do I really want? So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Do you remember, I think we're sort of around the same age group, maybe a little older. Remember like Cosmopolitan on the test they used to have, like find out your favorite whatever, or even like Instagram.
Oh my God,
okay.
Yeah.
So if I told you city or country, what would you tell me?
Wait, say it again. What was the question?
City or country?
Country.
Okay. Beach or lake?
Lake.
Salt or fresh?
Fresh.
Okay. Snow or sun?
Sun.
Okay. Do you know how you instinctively answered those questions?
Yeah.
All of us have that.
Uh-huh.
And you need to figure out when it comes to the bigger questions, you still have that instinct, but it's so noisy around us. And there's so many distractions, and the distractions can be the finer luxuries or more vacations or whatever it is.
Social media.
Social media. You need to sit in that space because those answers you just gave me, everything you're trying to figure out in between, they're in there. You just need to silently sit in that space and figure out what is it that I want. And one of the biggest questions I ask all of them, and you know what? Everything does interlap because I end up coaching or working as a therapist for a lot of entrepreneurs, is I ask them at what cost.
We all need a therapist. I think everybody needs to accept that fact that we all need therapists all the time.
Yes.
Like, we gotta get with this program.
Right? So I always ask, at what cost? So at what cost does the thing you want cost you? And is it worth it for you? Is it aligned with it? Right? So like we send our kids to a very great school, but it's expensive and it's 40 minutes away. We live in a great area. It's super safe. And the elementary school is a 2-minute drive from my house. but we choose to drive 40 minutes to give our kids something. So at what cost? Money, miles, time, stress, sometimes in the car, right? But is priceless. My kids' future, the people they're around, the balance of academic, social, faith is everything. So I will drive 2 hours for my kids.
I love that. That's very, very, very good example. If you can please tell our listeners your last words of encouragement.
Oh my gosh. Whatever dream you have in your heart, you are meant to have it, and you're meant to give that gift to other people. So don't let anything stop you. Don't quit. Keep going.